Hi, welcome back. There, I told you that by the time you saw me again I'd be on a new farm, and believe it or not, I'm actually on a new farm. And yes, this is still BallySpring, so if you think it looks very recognisable to the old one, then you'd be absolutely right. What I decided to do with my new farm, because I don't know how much longer I'll be playing FS22 for. Hopefully there'll be some decent mods for FS25 in the next 6 months, so I imagine I'll be playing FS22 for probably 6 months or less, I would imagine at this stage, but you never know. And I thought about it, and there were 3 maps, well, 2 other maps I hadn't really played before that I really wanted to do before I gave up FS22, and I really wanted to do this map right because I realised there was a number of things that I'd gotten wrong on it, and I wanted to get them right. So I thought, well, I'll redo this map, rebuild this one, and do the other 2, and I'm going to actually do 3 maps. Now, funnily enough, all 3 maps are set in Ireland, but it wasn't planned that way, it's just the way it is. So this video and the next 2 will all be map tours of my 3 different farms that I'm going to play through. Unlike, say, Fury Machine Gaming and AK, who kind of like do a roster where they'll do a video on this farm on Wednesday and then a video on this farm on Friday and then a video on this farm on Sunday or whatever, you know. I'm not promising to do them in any particular order or anything like that. I make a video when I feel like making a video on whatever farm I'm playing on at the time with my 3. That's the one you'll get a video on. If you really want to see more videos on a particular farm, so you like a particular farm, ask me. Otherwise I'll just do whatever one I feel like doing at the time. So this is BallySprings, and I'm going to show you the major things I've changed. So I've done the same house, the same yard sort of thing. I have changed the shed because the last garage I had on this map was just decorative. This one actually works. And so inside, you can see I've got my MX-5. I've got a bicycle, a surfboard, and a barbecue area, a barbecue. So there is room in that shed for other stuff, but so that's the shed. I have actually, if I go to the map for a second and go down here, I have actually added in an extra field, but you probably can't really tell very easily because if I go like this, just go here. So what I've done is I've split field 255 into 2 now, so I've got 4 along here instead of just 3 along here. And so what you can see here, if I go back here for a second and turn this off maybe, so okay, 248 and 250 I don't treat as part of my farm. I have to own them simply because when you buy these 2 you get those 2 with them automatically, but I'm not using those. So I've got these 6 here that I'm going to be mowing on a regular basis. I've got then along here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fields. Actually there's 9, that's 2 there as well, but you can't see the line in between, which is there. So I've got 9 fields there. 1 has bulls in, 4 have cows in the winter fields, and 4 have cows in, sorry, the winter fields don't have any cows in at the moment because it's only September, and 4 have cows in the summer fields. So I have 8 fields for cows, but only 4 fields of cows. And what happens, you see, is if we look up this way, actually if I go around behind the house for a second, you'll see up on the hill there, so there's cows all up on the hill. I can't get up on those hills, on that hill during the winter months, especially if it's snowing. I've got the snow turned on and it snows about every second winter on this map, but my tractors aren't powerful enough to actually haul the feed trailer, the TMR mixer wagon, up this hill during the winter months. So I use the hill paddocks during the winter, and I've got paddocks down the flat over behind the yard here that I use in summertime. So this is my backyard, my front yard. But let's just look at the major changes I've made. And so the first one you'll notice, if I jump up on this fence, is I have a stock sorting yard here. So how that works is my stock truck, and you might remember that I've got that Ford F600, which I'm treating as a Bedford J3, backs up to here to load or unload cows. If I jump here, so you've got the different sorting ones, pens here. This is where my milking shed used to be. I've got the crush here. That you can use the crush if you need to call the vet out to look at a cow. You can put the cow in the crush, or if you're ear tagging them or something like that. If they've got an infection in their foot and they need to have that cleaned out, you can put them in the crush. So Yep, I have the crush there. Now if I go around here, so this fence here, that one you can come down and put that across here instead to block off the milking shed. So as they come down off the cow run, and I'll show you that in a minute, they can either go into the milking shed or into the sorting yard if I'm going to be loading them on the truck or putting them in the crush. So here's the milking shed. Now again, this is called a herringbone milking shed. So the only thing that's a wee bit unrealistic on this one is in real life that down the centre of the milking shed here would be a pit in the ground, so that when you're standing in the pit you've got the udders at about your mid-chest height for hooking them up for milking them. It just makes it easier. As far as I'm aware, herringbone milking sheds are unique to New Zealand. I've never seen them anywhere else or heard of them being anywhere else, but if any of you know about that, I'd love to know a bit more. So basically, herringbone milking sheds are used when you don't have a very big herd. In New Zealand, you'd have a herringbone shed if it's a fairly small herd. You'd have probably an automatic round milking shed if it was a larger one. And here's where the milk gets stored as they're being milked, and that's picked up daily, of course, by the dairy. And then they come around here, and so I've got the tap there. I've got 4 taps throughout the farm, 2 of them in the milking yard here. The reason why is one of the mods I've got is this hose one, and I just really enjoy hosing out the yard after milking, even though it's not actually doing anything. And the way this works, the hose and the tap are 2 separate things, so you can actually engage the hose anywhere on the farm. You don't need to be standing near a tap, but it would be very unrealistic to do so. So I only use it if I've got the tap, if I'm near a tap. So the taps you can use for filling water trailers. Okay, the hose works like a water blaster, so you can use it for cleaning things. But as I said, the 2 aren't actually connected in any way, so you don't actually have to be standing next to a tap to use the hose, but I always do. I wouldn't use a hose if I'm not near a tap. And there's another hose, again, just used for for cleaning down the yard after milking. Okay, and then something else I've only that, as far as I'm aware, is unique to New Zealand. I've never heard of them being anywhere else. Here where you have cattle runs. So this is a cattle run that goes down to the milking shed, and this cattle run connects to every single one of my summertime fields. And of course, you're only milking over the summer months and the sunny weather months. So this doesn't need to be connected to the winter fields. You wouldn't be milking over winter. The cows are dried out then. So from here, you see if I open this gate. Okay, so the cows in this paddock get down to the milking shed by going down this run here. If I close that gate off, which blocks off that part of the run, then I can go through to here. The cows in this paddock get into through here. Okay, and then go up even further. Now this basically doesn't need to be wide enough for most vehicles, because generally speaking it's cows walking up and down here and you're following with a big stick. You might be riding a 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler, or even a trike, but a 2-wheeler, a 3-wheeler, or even a quad. But this farm was well before side-by-side, so it doesn't need to be wide enough for side-by-side, only a quad bike. Now I've got gates here through those 2 paddocks I said I'm treating as not owning, just so that I was going to block them off with hedges, but I thought no, I'll leave them there, because if I ever do decide to treat those 2 fields as part of the farm, then I can do so. Then you carry on up here, and here's the wrong end of it. And so from here, this field of cows here can all get into the run here and go all the way down to the milking shed and all the way back up. Now the reason that, or New Zealand at least, the reason that I have separate fields of cows and not all my cows in one field or something is they're all different ages, so you keep them separated by age, and that way the theory is now right now all my cows are the same age, because I had to just restock the farm with new cows after I built the farm, but I will be selling some every 3 months and replacing them, so that every 3, what was it, every 15 months, so that I will have, my oldest cows will be 60 months old. I sell them when they get 60 and replace them. But this way, I will end up with cows of different ages. So instead of having to replace all my cows all at once, because they all reach the 60-month max that I use, I'll just be replacing one field every 15 months. I think that'll work a lot better. Okay, so that much longer cow run is of course new, and the way I've got the milking shed and the yard, but the sorting yard. But all the rest of this farm here is pretty much the same as what it was before. Now we will go and have a look at the other major difference in my farm now. In my map, because that was one of them, is putting in that milk run. Actually, we'll take the Land Rover. We'll take my wife's Land Rover here. I'll have to turn on my steering wheel so ignore the beep when you hear it in a second. So I forgot to do that before starting the video. Okay, so here we go. So we're out on this road isn't part of the farm here. This is just gravel road. You get a lot of those in New Zealand. And yes, I know this is an Irish map. I have kind of loosely based it on New Zealand stuff to a large degree. That's why I've got the herringbone milking shed and the long cow run that connects all my fields of cows to the milking shed. Okay, now if we go along here for a moment, I don't have these two fields, this one and the one next to it. I'd planted onions on the last map, you might remember. I will plant these onions again, but it's the wrong time of the year because the game always starts in August, so I can't plant my onions yet. Now I've got here, I'll just stop in the driveway here for a second. So I did mention in my last video that I was going to have a neighbour farm that I could borrow equipment off, and I have gone with that idea. I couldn't decide. I was going to do away with these two houses, but I couldn't decide whether I should let AK be the neighbour farmer or Fury Machine Gaming. So I've actually gone with neither of them. I've kept these houses here for them both instead. So that's AK's Range Rover. Sorry, AK, being an Irish map, you've got to have something British or whatever. It suits the map better, I think. And his wife's, so that's Mrs. AK's Harley. Which I chose the colour of it because I love orange, so she doesn't get a say in that, I'm sorry. Okay, so now if I back out of here, and we will totally and completely ignore what I just said about you've got to have British vehicles because it's an Irish map. So when we get to Fury Machine Gaming's house here, we've got American vehicles, but they're older ones. So he's got the truck here that he uses every day, and the old truck here, which I believe is still a runner. The interesting thing is this truck here is a Chevy, this truck here is a Ford. Now I've never actually asked Fury Machine Gaming whether he's a Ford man or a Chevy man, or he could even be a Dodge man, I suppose, so I'm not sure which he is, but hopefully I've got my bases covered by having one of each like that. But now we'll go and have a look at the next door neighbour's farm. We'll head up here. Now I'm just going to talk about this whole concept of the next door neighbour's farm for a second as we're driving there. The reason I wanted to do it is sometimes I need a bigger horsepower tractor than the ones I've got for working my two fields of crops, so like for running a seeder or something like that. I also don't own a combine harvester. Now previously I was just leasing these from the dealership and saying, oh, I borrowed this off the neighbour, but I decided to actually have the neighbour owning the equipment that I needed but don't have myself instead, so I can actually buy. Now the neighbour also has a dairy farm, so you can see all the fields of the neighbours here. These are actually static cows in these fields, and the reason for that is I spend basically a quarter of every day just feeding cattle anyway, and sometimes longer than that if I'm walking every field down to the actual milking shed and everything, hosing it out, which I quite often do just because I enjoy doing that. If I was going to do all the milking for the neighbours, well, I'd end up spending all day every day just doing cow work and never having a chance to actually do anything else. So I've stocked the neighbour's farm with static cows instead of the real animated ones that actually need feeding. So there's no cow work that technically needs doing on this farm. Now, You can see for some reason the neighbours stopped ploughing partway through ploughing up this field. I'm sure we'll see the reason in a moment. If you have a look on YouTube, you'll see that in Ireland, and I don't know whether this is popular anywhere else or not, but definitely in Ireland, there seems to be a thing of people that get these little die-cast model tractors and farm equipment, and they make farms using plaster and cardboard and wood and whatever other materials they've got lying around. They make these farms, kind of like the way you do scenery for a model railway or maybe a stock car set. And I can understand why you do it, but my concept is, and they'll post these videos on YouTube, but it's set up with different tractors doing different jobs, and they change things around season to season. And I kind of get it, because I enjoy doing scenery for, I enjoy making Lego towns, which is something I suppose. I also, enjoy scenery of model railways. I sometimes go to a model railway show when there's one on, not because I want to see the trains particularly, I want to see the scenery. That's more my thing rather than the trains. So I get it, but I wouldn't want to spend money and take up space doing a die-cast thing myself. So part of the reason for this neighbour's farm is that I'm going to set up different things that are happening. So when we go over to the neighbours, we'll see different things that the farmer's working on and kind of interact. Now, this probably isn't really a New Zealand style house overly, but I do like this house. I like the way it's got, if we come around here, the like 2 stories with the little porch up the front, which I imagine there is connected to the master bedroom. And in New Zealand, and yes, I know this isn't a New Zealand map, but in New Zealand, it's basically 2 kind of farmers. There's the poor farmers that are really, really struggling, and that's what my farm is meant to represent. It's a small family-run farm, and we're always struggling to make ends meet. And there's the farmers that are actually doing quite well for themselves. So this farm here are doing quite well for themselves. Now, as you can see, they're actually, some of the kids and things are obviously home for lunch at the moment, from doing the farm work. So we've got the old farm bikes there, and a 4-wheeler. Now 4-wheelers are fairly new, because this is of course set in the 80s, so there were 4-wheelers, but they were still fairly new. Still had a lot of people using 2-wheeled farm bikes and 3-wheeled farm bikes. So I have a trike on my own farm. This one here is quite interesting. It's got a carrier, but it's also got, if you can see there, a tow bar on the back of a 2-wheeled motorbike. Now, in New Zealand, especially when World War II first finished, New Zealand didn't have a lot of money, so we couldn't afford to buy new things. So New Zealanders really got this can-do attitude, and they'd make something they already had lying around the place work to do whatever job they needed, even if it wasn't designed for it. They'd fix things themselves, using the old number 8 wire, which is like fencing wire and things. So we'll have a look in the neighbour's shed here as well. Now, the neighbour also has an MX-5 in this nice grey colour, and the reason for that is, in real life, I live on a hill just above a valley, and on the other side of the valley, on the hill on the other side of the valley, I have a friend who has the same model MX-5 as I have, in this dark grey model, and we've both just joined the MX-5 Owners Club, and we're going for our first run in a few days' time with the club, so it'll be interesting to see what the club's like. Also got this home-built buggy here. Again, it's a real Kiwi thing of having home-built vehicles, just made out of what you've got handy. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to taking that for a spin around the fields at some point. We'll just shut the neighbour's garage door again. And now this farm here also, having a long driveway up that splits, and you go one way to get to the house and the other way to get to the farmyard, is quite a New Zealand thing, and a lot of New Zealand farms will have that sort of thing. And one of the other 2 maps I'm doing has exactly that. The main farm that I've got has a driveway that goes up and splits into like a Y. Now this farm here, here's the main yard, and we can see now why the farmer stopped ploughing partway through a field, because he's got, sorry if I stop there, he's got the vet here for some reason. So the vet's here doing some work, and here's the old HQ Holden ute, which the farmer owns. So the Fiat tractor with the plough on the back, that's at the back at the moment, I will be buying probably both of those from time to time. this bale trailer he's got, because if I get sick of picking up bales manually using my Bedford truck, I can borrow that trailer. He's got a harvester which I need to borrow from time to time. Around here he's also got a Bedford truck of his own there. Now, so this farm, if I go back over here for a second so you can read the number plate on this vehicle, I might need to turn my torch on. Okay, so you might be able to work out who owns this farm, who my next door neighbour is. Now, I've done something here that's a wee bit of a laugh. Eustace Farmer, as I like to call him, even though he later changed his name to Atomic 67 Gamer, absolutely hated the fact that Farming Simulator, I think it was 17, came out with an American map. I think it was 17. It was full of rubbish everywhere. So I've put this little bin of rubbish here on his farm, just to say, no, you can't get away from the rubbish, because he hated the fact the American map was filled with rubbish, and he actually modified the map to get rid of all the rubbish. But I wasn't going to fill his farm full of rubbish. I sort of put one little bin in the corner, just sort of ha. So here's some spare gates leaning up against the fence, an old grain elevator, and I forgot to fuel that one up before we... That's alright there. And as you can see at the moment, I'm just going to jump up on this truck. At the moment he's got a truck full of corn that he's obviously taking off down to market. Now, the reason for the truck full of corn is I told you that I used to be on a server that he ran, and that there were 4 or 5 of us on this one server, and we all had different farms, and sometimes I enjoyed going around the different farms just to see what people were up to. And the last time I visited Eustace's farm on that server, he had a truck full of corn. So this truck is full of corn, kind of in honour of his truck that was full of corn. He had a much bigger truck than this because it was an American map, so it was a big Kenworth or Mack with an articulated trailer on the back. The old Massey, that's definitely very, very Kiwi. So this farm, I've sort of gone with a very Kiwi feel to it. It's got an old Massey Ferguson tractor, it's got a Bedford truck there, it's got the HQ Holden down here, even the Vet's Toyota, what's this one? This isn't a Hilux, it's a... I can't even remember what this one's called. Can I read it there? Oh, Land Cruiser. Yeah, so Toyota Land Cruiser again. Very, very Kiwi feel to that. But what I will mention is, with this farm, because I'm going to be putting things, just making a little story, like I've got the tractor loading up the corn there to take off to market at the moment, and next time we come back here, there might be a different little scene going on. I plan to only really use this part of the yard here, of this. So what I did with the rest of the yards, I just shoved some stuff in it just to kind of fill it up. I put a bunker over there and a pit there, but that was just to fill up the rest of the yard. I'm only planning on ever really using this part of the yard here and just having the little scenes going on. So this, I didn't leave that running. So this is Eustace Farmer's farm, and he's my next door neighbour, or the closest neighbour to me, or the closest neighbour who is a farmer. And of course, both Fury Machine Gaming and AK live closer to me than Eustace does, but they're not farmers, they've just got houses out there in the country, so they must have jobs in the town, and I do certainly get them to come and help me on my farm when I need it, but I don't have any paid staff on my farm or anything. It's really just a family run farm, so I'm either doing everything myself or my wife and kids are helping me out when I need it, but occasionally I will pay a worker to come in and things. So yeah, so this is the first of the 3 maps that I'll be showcasing, and as you can see, it's actually very, very similar to what it was before, but with the neighbour's farm added in. I've made a few small changes around mine. One of the big changes that you don't see is I've got a lot better using placeables now. This map still took me 30 hours to make, and that's 30 saved hours, so it probably took about twice that, because often I'd put down a placeable, wasn't quite happy with it, so quit the game without saving. So it probably took me in fact 60 hours or thereabouts to do all the changes to this map that I wanted to make it my own. But it took 30 hours and 10 minutes of saved time, so I checked that before coming onto the map. But I'll leave you with that now, and my next 2 videos will be showing you my other 2 farms, which aren't actually quite finished yet. So those videos will be out sometime soonish. Thanks, bye.